He is very deserving of a great introduction, but if I told you all of his accomplishments, especially in the political world, we'd be here past lunchtime. So let me do a quick summary. He serves as the Senior Fellow for Human Rights and Constitutional Governance at the Family Research Council, and he is now actively involved as the Domestic Policy Advisor to the Trump Presidential Transition Team. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Ken Blackwell.
Thank you very much, Gil. You know, when Gil normally introduces me, my standard line is to come out and say I'm reminded of that old Dizzy Dean quote. He said, you know, the older I get, the greater I was. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure to be part of the FRC leadership team. We understand at FRC Action that we are faced with the most important election in our lifetime. Ladies and gentlemen, Aristotle once said that there is a dynamic tension between the organized power of the state and individual liberty. President Obama might not understand this, Hillary Clinton might not understand this, but we understand this. And that is that America has been an exceptional nation, the exceptional nation in the world for 240 years, because we had founders that understood the importance of putting a harness on the growth and reach and power of government. Yes. They understood that when you put that harness on government's intrusion in our lives, liberty flowers in our lives. They said it best in that second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident. My dad used to say that was a highfalutin way of saying any knucklehead should get this. That we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, which fundamentally means that our human rights are not grants from government, they're gifts from God. A third term of President Obama in the person of Hillary Clinton would mean that the efforts to run faith and God out of the public square would continue. And it would happen with the assistance of a judiciary, an activist judiciary that empowers the state and steals from us our individual liberty. We don't have to go to the experts to understand that we have a labor participation rate that is at a 50-year low. We don't have to go to the experts in Washington, D.C. to understand that we have anemic economic growth. We don't have to go to the experts in Washington, D.C. or any place else to understand that we are $20 trillion in debt. And what that means, it means that we will continue anemic economic growth. It means and job creation. It means that we are stealing through intergenerational theft the freedom and the quality of life from our grandchildren. It will mean that we put our families and our nation in financial danger because one of the leading holders of our debt is China. So, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at who has a plan to unleash economic growth, to changing the rates on businesses at the margin. Look at Donald Trump's plan to put us back into a situation where we can attract the $2 trillion that's sitting offshore because of a tax policy and tax climate that is not hospitable. I know President Obama and Mrs. Clinton believes that that money is the government's money. It is not. Capital seeks the path of least resistance and greatest opportunity. And what we want is a government that understands its limitations. We want a government that creates a tax climate to create an investment back into our cities and our counties where we can get job creation. We want an administration that understands that no longer will we tolerate a borderless country. No longer will we tolerate voters without borders. We, in fact, will protect the integrity of the United States of America, the greatest country on the face of the earth. John 3, we're told that those who would do evil love the darkness. We're told in Matthew 5 that we all have been invested in by God with a light. And it is incumbent upon us not to put our light under a bushel, but to put it on a candlestick and hold it high, and to illuminate the magnificence of our Creator, our God. Ladies and gentlemen, this election is a call to all of us not to spend time cursing the darkness, but to spend time lighting candles with hope and through our action. We cannot sit on the sidelines, ladies and gentlemen. We must be on the front lines of this battle. It is about struggle. And there's an old saying by winemakers: if there is no struggle on the vine, there's no character in the fruit. God has put us on earth for such a time and such a battle as this. Will we hear the call to get off of the sidelines, join those in action on the front line? FRC Action, along with other organizations, are making sure that there's plenty of opportunity for you to engage. I look at campaigns through three prisms. Simple, I call it message, money, and muscle. Muscle is ground game, getting out the vote. Through a very vigorous primary process, we now have a candidate that is honing a message that is pro-Constitution, that is pro the rule of law, that is pro-protecting our borders, that is pro-giving capital and inviting climate in which to expand and create jobs and put Americans to work. We, in fact, have created that choice with our message and with our money. The question now is, will we, in fact, come out and vote. Over the course of the next 58 days, you will hear what the battleground states are, but I will tell you, every vote, no matter what state, no matter what county, no matter what township, no matter what city, is important. And we need to work to get it out. But we will focus on some key battleground states. And I'll just use as an example, Ohio. If you will allow me a little bit of boasting, the heart of it all. Ohio in 2004, George Bush won Ohio by 118,000 votes. If you had flipped 60,000 votes, George Bush would have lost Ohio and lost the presidency. That year, Christians and people of faith knocked on doors, neighbor to neighbor, family member to first family member, church member to church member, and we got our folks out. We didn't leave any community off the chart. We actually also had an issue on the ballot, the protection of natural marriage, that helped to pull people to the polls. If, in fact, we had stayed home in that election, we would have had John Kerry as president. If you want to go back and show on the flip side, in 1976, Jimmy Carter won Ohio by about 13,600 votes. You, in fact, changed, that's less than one vote per precinct. You changed 7,000 votes, and you would have had President Ford, not President Carter. We cannot leave any corner of our precincts, of our wards, of our state untouched. This is about high tech, the use of high technology, but also high touch. It is so important that we remember that. It is important that we do something else. My grandmother, who was a wise lady, said that there were 3 books by which I should guide my life by. She gave me this lecture when she sent me off with my mom and dad to college. She said those 3 books are the date book, the checkbook, and the good book. She said the date book tells how you spend your time and with whom you spend it. Your checkbook speaks to how you manage your resources, no matter how abundant or meager. And the good book, in our family, the Bible, helps you to choose the path of conviction over the path of rank opportunism. And so as a consequence, I challenge you to look at the next 58 days. How are you spending your time? With whom are you spending it? How are you managing and marshaling your resources towards the objective of protecting American exceptionalism? And how consistent will you turn to the good book for guidance? Ladies and gentlemen, in my family experience, my grandmother, one year when I had the mumps, she was a housekeeper for 4 families in Cincinnati. Little did she know that her grandson would one day be the mayor of the fine city of Cincinnati, but she didn't care about that at the time. She was concerned about her baby with the mumps. And she bought me a book given to her by one of the families for whom she worked. And it was a novel about a little boy who was in his early years in the 1920s. He spent a lot of time in the infirmary. And one night, the nurse came to his room at dusk, and he was looking out his window. And she said, "Little boy, what are you doing?" She said, "I'm watching the man punch holes in the darkness." And she said, "What?" And she went down and looked out the window, and what the little boy saw was the lamplighter in the early 1920s going down the street, lighting the lamp. But in his mind's eye, he was punching holes in the darkness. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot afford a third term of Barack Obama. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot spend time wringing our hands, cursing the darkness. We, in fact, must light our candle, lift it high, light under candles, and punch holes in the darkness of our time, shine light on American exceptionalism, and make this century America's third century, where we, in fact, go forward as a nation that is a beacon on the hill. Thank you so much for your attention.